I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, December the 13th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Here for the regular Monday sale today, 8,500 head expected. Don't forget Wednesday they've got a special cow and bull sale after the weigh up sale. It'll be an afternoon start at 4:30 in the afternoon. They've got several dispersals there. Joplin will be having one more big feeder sale a week from today, next Monday, and then they'll be closed until January 3rd. So you know, the year is running short. And if you want to market some cattle, you got to get it done this week. And you know, the way that the holidays are landing on the weekends, it's pretty much given us 2 totally full weeks of holidays. And this week's not going to be a hell of a lot better. But you look at a lot of sales are going to be closed for 2 weeks. Oklahoma National Stockyards, this is their last sale of the year here today. They'll be closed for the next 2 weeks after this week. Last feeder sale here today. They'll have their odd sale on Tuesday and cows and bulls on Wednesday. But this is their last week of sales, and you just better check your schedules, guys. But we've run out of time here as far as the year's going, and we're going to get into kind of a holidays where we're not going to be able to depend on the markets. There's no telling what kind of schedule your packers are going to be able to run, not this week, but the next 2 weeks. Of course, they're buying for them this week, what little negotiated cash cattle that they might buy, but we're likely not going to be able to gain any more ground. If we could hold things steady with last week's a slightly lower market, that would be a victory. So we'll just kind of see what we can do as far as that. Now when we get into January, they're going to be wanting to ramp things up again, and we're still short on market ready cattle. So if guys could get together and hold out and resist those lower prices after we get rid of this December live cattle contract, then maybe we could gain a little bit more ground again, but not likely here as we go the next 2 to 3 weeks through this holiday cycle. But what happened in the past week or so, we didn't get to talk about that. Of course, I was kind of out in Vegas at the finals, and I apologize to you guys that were disappointed in some of the feeder flashes last week, because kind of doing those in short time there. But the House of Representatives did pass 2 cattle bills last week, or bills that had to do with cattle. They passed the reauthorization of mandatory price reporting, or LMR, but they normally do it for 5 years, and they only did it for the next 6 months, through the first part of the year, through September of 2022. So this will be like the second or third time that they've just kind of kicked it down the road instead of doing it for 5 years. Why is that? Because we've got some other stuff we want to get on there, and a lot of it has to do with your minimum negotiated cash bills that I've been touting here for the last couple of years. But they did go ahead and reauthorize LMR for up through September of 2022. And then the Cattle Contract Library Act that Dusty Johnson from South Dakota had put up, they did go ahead and overwhelmingly pass that. Now that's the one that's supposed to give us more details on these sweetheart deals that the big and they're not always big, not always your big corporate feeders, but some of your smaller guys too. I'm not sure where they're going to set that threshold. What we're going to find out about the details of some of these formula deals. But one thing that doesn't necessarily worry me, but I'm looking at it with a finer tooth comb here. NCBA come out immediately for this Dusty Johnson's Cattle Contract Library Act. Now they weren't overwhelmingly or at all for Deb Fisher's Cattle Market Transparency Bill that had the Cattle Contract Library in it. Now they weren't for that at all. Mainly because Deb Fisher's bill called for a minimum negotiated cash level there. So they're totally against that. But all of a sudden they're all for Dusty Johnson's bill. As soon as before he even got the ink dried on it, NCBA come out and said, man, we're all about this. We really want this. Well, if they do it like they've done it in the pork side, it's not worth a shit because you can't tell what's going on. And if you ask me, especially if NCBA is totally for it, and knowing how heavily influenced they are with the corporate feeders and your packers, I'm thinking that the way that they're planning on getting that pushed through, that confidentiality rules are not going to allow us to see a whole lot more than what we're seeing right now. And like I said, if USDA does this like they've done it in the pork side with cattle contract information there, or pork, I guess, hog contract information, you really can't see anything. And when we have reports now that's got it in there, but when you've got 30 to 50, 60, 70, $80, $100 price ranges in your premiums and discounts, and you don't see anything specific as to one feedlot or one producer, you know, what can you tell there? What we need with this cattle contract library is we need to see it just like the contract is, and just X out or omit the names that are in there, just to protect the innocent on there. But I seriously doubt if the way that they've got this set up and the way that they think they're going to do it is going to tell us a whole lot more than what we're at right now. I've had some of these bigger corporate feeders tell me, hey, we'd sell 100% negotiated cash before we give you the details of our formula contract. So I'm just really curious about that, and I don't know. I hope it's better than that, but I really doubt it, guys. But we also saw Texas Farm Bureau passed a resolution that says they will oppose any kind of a bill that has to do with a minimum percentage of negotiated cash for your packers. So that was a fine how do you do. That goes to show you how close tied your Texas Farm Bureau is with what's going on with your grassroots producers and kind of what we're trying to get done here to save the industry. But we saw that horrible tornado and series of storms go through your Midwest, going east there. And don't forget to pray for all those people in Kentucky that's lost their lives and family and property and everything. I got this picture here of a Mayfield, Kentucky grain terminal. Just look at the way that those trucks that were filled with grain got tossed around, and how those big silos just got cracked open, you know, like a can of soup or something. And it's just unbelievable what Mother Nature can do. But it's really troubling there, and those people need your prayers and they need your help if you can do that. And there's several ways that you can donate to that cause, and people that are giving them some aid there. But been pretty tough. Went out to the national finals last week. I know a lot of you guys were out there. I seen a lot of you guys were there. A lot of Feeder Flash Gang members were out there and posted stuff on social media. You know, it's back. It was just like it was before the pandemic for the most part. Didn't see a whole lot of mask problem out there. If you wanted to sit down and play poker close knit, then you had to put a mask on. Otherwise, pretty much not at all. Maybe to walk through a door, and that's about it. But it was pretty much back to normal. That's where it belongs, is in Vegas. I was one of the very few of the men that were out there wearing cowboy boots. It appears that house shoes are now the cowboy etiquette for dressing up. You know, pretty much everybody that wears a hat and likes to go to stuff like that, you know, they've got a pretty nice pair of cowboy boots somewhere. If you're not going to wear them to the national finals rodeo, when would you wear them? Now, that just, you know, I don't see Hey Dude shoes, you know, really helping promote rodeo or sponsoring it or anything like that. But that's pretty much all anybody wears anymore, and I think it's the women's fault. You know, if you'd call those guys that are wearing their house shoes with the bottom of their Wranglers, you know, rolled up, or their rock and roll cowboy jeans rolled up, you know, then you could kind of keep a little bit of Western in the way people are dressing. But it's very ridiculous out there. Let's talk about your board for last week. How about December live cattle contracts? Monday was up 50 cents, Tuesday up a nickel, Wednesday started failing, down 67 cents, Thursday down 82, Friday up 12, with December live cattle contracts ending the week at 136.85. That was 82 cents lower than the end of the previous week. February ended the week at 138.07. Now our market is still 140. You know, we lost a couple of dollars on the top side there, but you know, going out into February, still just 138.07, and that was down 88 cents for the week. January feeder cattle contracts, Monday was up $1.12, Tuesday down 22 cents, Wednesday down $1.62, Thursday up 67, and Friday up 80 cents. With January feeder cattle contracts ending the week at 164.87, that was up 75 cents for the week, but you go on out and then they started failing. March contracts ended the week at 165.30, and that was down $1.80. But both of those are still at quite a premium to what the average is on our 800-pound steers. You know, we can get a load of them to sure bring that, but you can't get the average of them that high. How about your fat cattle trade up through Thursday of this past week? 52,200. Now, it doesn't seem that you have a hard time seeing that if the lighter the negotiated cash trade, the lower the market or the lower the demand. The more negotiated cash trade we have, the better chance we have at getting higher prices. So we had only 52,200 head through Thursday of last week. The previous week, when we got to the highest price we've seen in years, 91,200 head. So that kind of tells you about that, and that's why we've been fighting to try to get a mandated minimum percentage of negotiated cash trade, which is in the compromise bill. But you look at your prices from early last week up through Thursday. Your live prices on fat steers and heifers were unevenly steady on the whole price from 137 to 142. But the 142 was only early in the week on one or two strings of cattle in Nebraska. The main price was 140. Your weighted average on live steers was 139.75. That was down about 75 cents up through Thursday of the previous week. Your dress sales, 218 to 221. That was steady to $1 higher actually, but your weighted average was about 25 cents lower. We did see a lot more dress trade this past week than we did the week before, and your price range and your weighted average were pretty close to the same, but falling a little bit, with dress steer weighted average at 219.70, which it was just over 220 last week. On Friday, we traded a few cattle in the northern plains, but not a whole lot. Colorado traded about 700 head on Friday, 1,600 head for the week. Live price was 140, dress price was 220 on Friday, and that was the top of the market that we had all week last week. Iowa, about 700 head, 15,300 head for the week. Live sales 137 to 139.50, dress sales at 218. Nebraska sold about 1,000 head on Friday, 21,800 head for the week. Only dress sales on Friday at 220. Now, Iowa and Nebraska, they sold about 37,000 last week, somewhere close to that. The previous week, when we gained all that market position, they sold 62,000. I'm talking about pure negotiated cash. We got to have more negotiated cash sales, guys. The Southern Plains didn't sell anything on Friday. They only sold about 15,000 head for the week in both Kansas and Texas combined. The previous week, when we gained all the ground, they sold twice that many. But your Southern Plains market, which is really your whole cash market, was sure straight up $2 lower, from 142 week before last to 140 last week. But box beef cutout values were lower, a lot lower, and just little to drive them, as the end users or the retailers have pretty much bought everything they need to get through the holiday season, so not going to see much drive there for a while. Your weighted average on all of last week's sales, choice cuts 266.75, that was down 642 compared to the previous week's weighted average. And your selects weighted average for all of last week's sales, 254.11, that was down 533 compared to the previous week's weighted average. And both of Select and Choice's for late Friday sales were about $2 lower than those weighted averages, so it's still falling. Slaughter ran at a decent pace up until Saturday, and then it kind of failed a little bit, but 668,000 for the week last week, 8,000 less than the huge week we had before, and 4,000 more than the same week a year ago. But if you look at our Saturday slaughter, it was 11,000 less than last week and 12,000 less than the same week a year ago. So can't keep the big slaughter up on Saturday, then you're going to fall off. What's really been big is our beef cow slaughter. I mean, we know we've been running droves of beef cows, especially up in the northern plains, and they've been preg checking and culling and all that kind of thing. But we've had the largest, last week, largest beef cow kill estimated since 2012. Wow. Let's look at what else is going on. My good friend Steve Hashey has Hashey Insurance. He was at the U.S. Cattlemen's Association's conference over the weekend. I got to visit with him. He told me he's been doing a lot of these livestock policies there for your livestock protection on your prices going down, and people calling in doing those. He's mainly crop insurance, been doing that for many years, and so he can help you with all your crop insurance needs. Also life insurance and some kind of different kind of scenarios you can use there to save yourself a lot of money and kind of do your own financing to run your operations. But check out their Facebook page, Hashey Insurance, and you can also go to HasheyInsurance.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 161.30. That was $2 higher than the previous week. So people were still aggressively buying feeder cattle. The feeder cattle were pretty nice. We had some big sales up in the northern plains and in the Midwest, and so we gained $2 there. Even though we're going to start falling off a little bit here because we've lost the rally in our fat cattle market. I would assume that Joplin and Oklahoma City and your big Monday sales are going to be steady, somewhere in there, maybe a pinch lower because we just lost the drive. We've been rolling here for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and now we've kind of lost the drive. Where we are going to see some drive is in our replacement stock. Don't forget, Bassett, Nebraska, Bassett Livestock is going to have a big special bred cow and heifer replacement sale. They're going to have over 3,000 head. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 15th here this week, and it starts at 9:30 in the morning. You can bid online. You can get an order in there, but they'll have some of the best replacement stock that you can buy anywhere. I'm going to be going to Fallon, Nevada. They got another big feeder sale on Friday, so they're going to have a big run there. Started having those on the first and third Fridays of the week here, but for a couple of months here they had one on the first of the month too, first Friday, because they just had so many to sell. But be a lot of nice calves on that deal, especially if you California guys or guys that want some hard desert calves to turn out. But let's talk about your trends in your feeder cattle auctions last week. Your feeder cattle, both steers and heifers, and steer calves last week in your sales sold steady to $5 higher. Heifer calves steady to $3 lower. And that just tells me that a lot of your Midwestern backgrounders, guys that farm and run cattle and background cattle, they got finished up with their harvesting. They put in some orders to buy some lighter cattle to background there at their own farm. And then they prefer steers. They just do, and they prefer the better kind, and that's just kind of the way it was last week. But look at some of your big sales late in the week. How about Fort Scott Livestock there, Fort Scott, Kansas? Look at these loads of feeder steers here. They were averaging in the 8s and averaging in the 160s on there, with my favorite one, the top one here that you see quoted, 60 head, 895 pound feeder steers, bring 164.10 in Fort Scott, Kansas. How about Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska? They sold 120 head, a big load of fancy 516 pound steer calves at $205. and go out east. Bluegrass Stockyards at Richmond, Kentucky. That's Jim Dawes' sale there. They sell them out there about like they do right here in the shadow of the feedlots. But just a couple blocks off the square there in Richmond, Kentucky, they sold 121 head, 836-pound feeder steers at $162.10 standing in the ring way out there in Kentucky. But the best quote that I saw late in the week last week come out of Winter Livestock Auction in Winter, South Dakota. They sold 3 loads of them, 153 head, 964-pound yearling feeder steers at $165.50. That's your Zach Tran top quote for the day, and that's your feeder flash for Monday.